Welcome back to the Sober Motivation Podcast. Today's conversation is about pressure, grief, and the mask we wear to survive. Philip grew up trying to be perfect, the cop's kid, the overachiever, but behind it all was anxiety and a voice that wouldn't shut off. Alcohol silenced that voice until it started destroying his life. After losing his mom as a teenager and spiraling into arrest and a DUI, Philip had to choose, keep performing or get honest. He's now 18 years sober. This one's about ego, vulnerability, and the power of community. And this is Philip's story on the Sober Motivation Podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Today we've got Philip with us. Philip, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me here.
Of course. Thank you for jumping on here and being willing to share your story with all of us.
Oh, dude, it's always a pleasure just to obviously talk about our stories, but also just connect with our community, man. I have been an active follower of you and your work for years now. And we kind of were joking, we've been, messaging back and forth. And I just appreciate all of the hard work that goes into staying consistent, putting out content, fielding the email, fielding the messages and putting this out, man. This stuff is not easy to do, man. So I'm a TV producer by trade. That's what I do for work. Yeah, man, consistency is hard, bro. Constantly doing the work. And so I got a lot of respect for what you do, man.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So what was it like for you growing up?
Man, so I grew up in Metro Detroit. I grew up in a household where, my dad was a police officer. So dad was a cop. Mom was involved in school board. Great family, loving family. But I also grew up as kind of the youngest kid on the block, right? I was always trying to be cool enough, funny enough, smart enough to fit in with the older kids on the street, on the block, and wanted to, very impressionable when I got around them, right? I've always kind of been, I always was able to, be a bit of a leader among my peers, but I was completely susceptible when you got me around anybody that was older than me, right? You got me around other people and then I felt like I needed to impress or prove something to, man, I would just go off one time I remember being a little kid and one of the kids up the street got a new bike and the guys were some of the older guys were messing with him about his bike. We were playing wiffle ball in the street and I'm 6 or 7 and they're like, yo, Phil, go, hey, why don't you go take your baseball bat to Danny's bike? Yep. Yeah. I'm doing that. If you're going to get me, some friends. And dude, I remember going up, beating this guy's bike and had to, obviously my dad was very upset, had to pay for the bike, but that was a bit of who I was as a kid, right? Everything, I felt like I needed to be perfect. My mom being a school board member, I never met somebody that didn't know who my mom was, didn't have an expectation of me. Dad being a cop, right? Yeah. You're trying to be this perfect little cop's kid. And so, where things kind of went for me was, I'm going through school, doing well, blah, 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 having that little bit of anxiety of just being a normal kid, trying to find your place. And those older guys, as they were 14, 15, 16, 17, and they started drinking, they started, doing, smoking weed and doing stuff. I was 11, first time I ever got drunk at a party, I was 11 years old, which is so common for a lot of us that are, in recovery, right? We started too young. We got access too young. And, for me, the thing, obviously there was the element of drinking and then feeling oh, I fit in, right? There was that bonus. Oh, I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing with the older kids. There was that bonus. But really for me, there was, anyone that's listening that can relate to that voice that just feels like it's always going, always in hype. Are you doing the right thing? Are you saying the right? Oh, maybe you shouldn't have said that. Maybe you shouldn't have done that. How are you positioning your that voice that was always going of judgment and it was the first time I ever experienced the voice disappearing.
Yeah. When you drank,
when I drank and it was the only thing it made me present. And I hate to say that because I don't want to give alcohol its flowers, man. But there was an element of, we talk about meditation or we talk about things of getting present and the importance of it. But for me at that young age, the thing that finally silenced my brain was taking a drink, right? And I say silenced. Also, it made me, I always joke I wanted to be Stifler from American Pie in the worst way, right? I wanted someone, wanted to break things and go wild and do crazy stuff. But there was that element So that was, 13, 14, 15, started drinking, doing this stuff on a normal, consistent basis, still overachieving in school, playing sports, captain of sports teams. So there's this like, constant performance, right? I'm always got to be, and I'm building all these masks of who I'm supposed to be, right? I was building I need to be the school board member's kid. I got to be the cop's kid. I got to be the captain of the team. I got to be the kid on honor roll. I got building this vision of who Phil Barb is, right? Who's Phil supposed to be? Yeah. And then, where it all, and then I would have this escape of I could drink when I'm in a situation, and then that voice would disappear, and it felt like an escape from myself. And, so for where it kind of kicked off for me, then 14, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. We had a year-long battle. A week before my 16th birthday, my mother dies. So I shouldn't say it that way. She passes away. Geez, Phil, man, you sound cold. No, but she passes away. And so I'm a 15, 16-year-old kid who has no skills of coping, no idea how to communicate. I have been pretending my entire life. And so I go into pretend mode. And for me, pretend mode was just, okay, I'm gonna have rehearsed vulnerability. I'm gonna tell you enough about me from an emotional standpoint. Oh, well, yeah, it's really sad and it's hard and it's heartbreaking, but also, I just have learned that, I just have to be grateful for the years that we did have together. And I just really, I love how my communities come around me. Blah, 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 blah. Rehearse vulnerability of, this is what I need to say so that you don't think that I'm completely broken, so I can hide long enough so I can go and drink or party and release from this thing.
Sorry, who were you talking about that to? Like sort of
That's everybody, man. That's everybody. Yeah. That's friends. That is parents. That's coaches. That's, going in to see a counselor, right? Yeah. That is building this, because at the core, I'm insecure and I think I'm awful, right? At my core, there's parts of me that doesn't think that I'm lovable, right? Yeah. And so you build that wall through the achievement and through the accolades and through the personality, and you build this wall that protects the insecure, broken version that doesn't feel like I'm worth anything. That all the years of self-criticism and all of that pushes on me, right? And so I just wanted to I gave you the performance, and I gave you that performance, and it was and then you hid the true thing because I didn't know. There was and look, I was 16, 17, 18. There's also a part of it where it's I'm just copying what I'm seeing. I'm copying the, I often joke the amount of sports analogies that have ruined me at times. You just got to put your jersey on and go. Dude, the day I found out my mom had cancer, we sat at the kitchen table, we cried our eyes out, and then I put on a basketball jersey and I went and played a game. Well, what are you going to do? There's nothing I can do. You just got to get back out there. That harshness that is everywhere now, especially in social media, right? All the gurus or the self-help stuff, or this is how you just got to be a man and man up and do dude, I'm a victim of all that, bro. Not to call myself a victim, but I was susceptible as a young kid to all that, right? If you're not bleeding, you're not working hard enough, all of that stuff. So
yeah, but then even looking back at that, I mean, it sounds like in one way or another too, it helped you shape this identity for yourself, right? As this, in today's terminology, maybe this grinder or this guy that's working hard. And then I think what I'm picking up too is relatable in some ways is that it gives you some value or acceptance, or especially if you're struggling on the other end with not feeling lovable, well, this is getting you attention. So this makes a whole heck of a lot of sense to do well in school and sports. So you're sharing all of this. This is what I'm picking up on, Philip. Let me know if I'm wrong here. You're sharing all of this right now on years of, reflecting, right? Years of work on yourself. when you look back, I mean, the best that you can remember it, what was kind of going through your head then? I mean, were you thinking that you weren't lovable, or how was that
No idea,
experience?
bro. I had no, like, you're right, right? Like, I've, been sober 18 years now. This is years of going back and
Yeah.
therapy and working with sponsors and uncovering and I just thought I was just trying to do the next thing, like it was, I had no idea, right? Like I had no idea what was really going on. There were times that I knew I was sad or that, and I wouldn't let myself feel the emotion. And I'll be honest, dude, I could sit here as a 40-year-old man and say that I still try to, my therapist jokes all the time is like, you love to think your way out of some emotions. I will get logical about things and try to hide the emotions, or I'll try to discredit why the emotion isn't why I shouldn't be feeling it, or why it's just an emotion and like I need to be stronger and be it. Right. I still will do those things. So in that moment, right, in those early years when I'm, no, dude, I thought I was just an 18-year-old wild kid having fun. Right. I thought, I had started DJing, right? So I was like in and out of nightclubs doing DJ, eventually, got to college, where it all went for me. So at 18 was leaving a DJ event, and, put my car into a wall, drinking and driving. At 19, got to college, got arrested for an alcohol related thing. 20, another alcohol related thing, all like small little, like minor possession stuff. And I try not to make it sound like I'm, I'll go and do, hospitals and institutions. And I'll tell you what, there's no better way for you to stop lying about about your story than go talk to some inmates who are actually sitting there doing time. And you won't, and you stop making your drunk tank night seem like that you did a 10-year vid, right? You start checking yourself when you're sitting there with some hard dudes and you're like, oh, maybe I don't need to sit here and act like I've been to jail 4 times. Like, hold on, bro. You spent a couple nights in jail. Calm down. Anyway, so 18, crashed my car. 19, 20, got arrested for alcohol related stuff. 22, got a DUI, was getting ready to move to LA. And I will say, when I got that DUI, it was one of those circumstances where there's the performative element of me that still knew like, oh man, I need to I got to deal with this court case, like blah, blah, blah. Like, what can I do to scheme, or how can I manipulate this situation to benefit me? And I'm like, oh, and I can start going to AA. They'll probably make me go anyway. And it'll look good. Right.
Yeah.
So, but there was a small piece of me, and if anyone can relate to this, man, I remember, right? Like I've always been, obviously you can tell I'm a high energy dude. I've always been able to talk and be personable with people, and was in a fraternity, shocker on that one, right? But I had the ability of I could be, at a party, having a blast, being surrounded with friends, and then go home. And at 2:30 in the morning, when I'm sitting in that room by myself, just sadness and emptiness, and felt so alone. And there was a part of me that was like, dude, I don't know if I knew it at the time. I knew that it didn't feel good. I knew that it didn't, feel good. And so there was a part of me that when I did look at some of my peers, other guys that were drinking and doing partying, and we were all being wild at that time, and you find people that will help support your thing. But
yeah,
there was a part of realizing I don't see them. I don't see their darkness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a darkness in them that I feel. And so maybe there is something of maybe I do have a problem, right? And look, I mean, I've been, I got into a fight with a kid I grew up with and got hospitalized. Metal beam hit me in the head during this fight, and I had to get 7 staples in my head. There was a lot. It was the one thing I'll say that I'm very grateful for with all of the problems was that it was a very obvious banging my head against the wall for anyone that was watching, right? For my dad, my sister that had to, my stepmother that had to sit by, and they're watching this 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old kid bang his head against the wall. It couldn't fly under the radar for too long, right?
It's just interesting there too, because I think, I'm a parent now. I have 3 smaller kids, so I'm not, they're not to this stage yet. But I think there's for parents too, is that you're wondering, right? At 20, 21, 22, okay, what part of this is just going to be what everybody else is doing? And then where is it going to sort of cross that line to say, if you don't get in front of this, you don't do something about it now, this is going to carry on? Because I can relate to that. I had so many buddies in college that I hung out with, but they weren't blowing up their life. They were able to like go out. I mean, they were partying as hard as me, if not harder, but they were able to get back up, do what they need to do, go to class, show up, do okay. And I always was left scratching my head, like, why is it that I am not able to really do that? Why is it that I seem like I'm having some big other thing going on more than just drinking, partying, and using drugs? There seemed to be like more kind of to the story. And I mean, I think like a lot of it's relatable what you said. I mean, just scaling things back. I didn't know how to communicate what I was going through. I didn't know how to express feelings. I didn't know how to ask for help. I was so filled with insecurity and fear and all of that other stuff. And I think everybody probably has some element of it, but I don't know. For me, it sounds like for you too, like they really kept us stuck.
Oh, dude, totally. And I think the crazy thing too is like there is, and for anyone that's newer and listening, right? Like this is years of looking back, right? And peeling back layers of the onion on yourself and trying to learn, right? Like, this isn't like one step study, right? You get through the 12 and then you're like cured, right? Like this is years of like almost to a point now where I joke, I'm like, man, I need to really like, I got to make sure I'm not making up stories about my past, right? Of what I'm making things mean. And I need to be honest and checking myself, which is why the community is so important. We can't see our own blind spots. Like the recovery game it takes a really long time, man. But like, so I got sober. So I got sober at 22, stuck with the program, fought it in a lot of ways. I didn't do everything the right way. Like I knew that I had problems, but there were times where I would dance around getting a sponsor, or then I'd switch meetings, and then I would, do a bunch of different stuff. And I got like 4.5 years sober. Hadn't done the steps, bro. Like 4.5 years sober, hadn't done the steps.
Why not? Why were you dancing around? What was causing you to
because I'm an entitled kid who doesn't want to listen to anybody. Because I know there's parts of me that thinks I know better. There's parts of me that was getting what I wanted by being able to go in and give you my amazing little 2-minute share about being a young person in AA and like do some of the work, not do the work, right? There's accountability, like all of the things that we see in the program, right? Like my ego, just like my ability to want to be the most important person in the room, and then also being afraid that there's something on my face that I don't know. And everyone knows it and everyone sees it and everyone's making fun of me about it, but no one will tell me, right? Like that level of being like, I'm either the greatest dude in the room or I'm not worth anything, right? Like, so I'm at this meeting, give it a great share, I imagine, right? I'm about 4.5 minutes or 4.5 years into sobriety. Bro, and this dude walks up to me after the meeting. I'm in North Hollywood. I live in Los Angeles now. It was in North Hollywood. And a guy walks up to me, big dude, right? Like 6'2", big bald dude, kind of, muscular guy, walks up to me and he goes, "Hey man, I just want to introduce myself. And I want to let you know, I think you're full of shit. Get a sponsor. 5 years is dangerous. Quit messing around." Come to find out, that guy worked at a rehab facility. And whatever my brand of genius that I thought I had going on, this dude had seen it before.
Yeah.
And he saw through it. And he saw through this performance. And he saw through the mask. And he had the boldness to step forward and call it. And that guy ended up being my first sponsor that walked me through the steps from one all the way through the end. I told that man things I had never spoken out of my mouth before, embarrassing, shameful things I had done, things that had been done to me. And I was able to just release so much. And like, since I stay in touch with him, I have another sponsor that I work with, but like, I'm always so grateful for that moment because, and I tell the story because it's also like, like that's on me. Like I've met people that go to that go to AA and they're 6 months in and they've gone through the steps, but like for me, I thought I was special or that I was different.
Mm.
And I dragged my feet and blah, 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 blah. I'm glad I stayed sober through that time. But it's been, it's not always, it doesn't always look the same, but you keep doing the work. And, and I just, in January 28th, I just hit 18 years of sobriety, which feels weird. 18 feels very weird. But the bigger thing, and I'm grateful for the journey, but it's like, I will never, the thing that I try to remember and I try to get, I'll never know. I will never even know all the hardship and pain that I avoided in 18, no matter how bad life gets, no matter how entitled I still am, feeling like, they should have went this way, or I should have got this, or, and I'm still human and I still go on social media and I still feel that this guy's life is better and I get caught up in that. But no matter how chaotic that all goes, there's so much chaos and sadness and brokenness that I've avoided in 18 years of sobriety. And I'll never even be able to truly comprehend and appreciate it. And for that, I'm very, very, very grateful.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's beautiful. Going back to like when you decided to get sober, what was that? Like, what was that like? Was it right after the DUI that you like, I need to plug into the meetings? And I'm also wondering too, is that is one part. And then the other part too, is kind of your dad. Was he talking to you? You had mentioned sort of they saw, what were those conversations like? Two parts there.
I love my dad, and we're such great friends, and we've talked at length. And obviously when I started, talking a lot about this and being more open with my story, he had to address some stuff. And I think it was tough for him to be like, how was I a cop? How am I a cop? And my son is 13 years old coming home drunk at night and I'm not picking it up. My dad, and I love him to death, but he always says, he goes, one of the biggest balls that I ever dropped in this thing was not getting you and your sister therapy when your mom died. He regrets not doing that and not getting help. Right now, on the flip side, I can be a grown man and appreciate like, hey, this is a guy who just lost his wife. He just lost his wife. He's trying there, and he's got two kids, he's got a senior and a sophomore in high school that he's got, like this isn't the plan he had, Yeah. But so, and look, he had, when I was in college, he had to cut me off. Like I ended up putting myself through college, because he had to say like, dude, you're not allowed home anymore. We had an incident where, dude, I was drinking and driving one night. I left, I went to Michigan State University, had come back home to Detroit for a hangout with some friends. And I almost hit a person. I almost hit somebody in my car, and the car came to my place and got out to like confront me. And I threatened this guy, and I was like, I'm going to, fight you, obviously using vulgar language, but I was like, in front of your wife and kid, like wife was it, right? Come to find out, it was a neighbor who I was so drunk I didn't recognize. And my dad, obviously the word gets back to my dad. He's like, dude, you're not welcome home anymore. Like you. And I remember him telling me years later, like him and my uncle had times where they were like, man, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know. He was like, I wanted to take you out of school and put you in rehab. But I also didn't want, there's the part of me is like, I don't want to, like, is this just a phase? How much time do I give you after your mom died? Like, do I want to put you in therapy? Do I want to rip you out of school and now your college is delayed and then do you not go back? Like I think that's the one thing that a lot of times we miss when we're in the chaos, like, and it's all about us. We forget what we're creating around us, and like the frustration for other people, and that we're putting other people in chaotic situations to have to try to figure these things out,
that is a good point too. I mean, when we're wrapped up in it, we are putting people in all of these difficult situations where there's not
easy answers.
It's not like 2 + 2, right? Because you could take like the tough love approach, or you could show grace, but you never know how it all is going to turn out, right? So as he's thinking about these, do I pull him out of school and just plug him into rehab? Well, you don't know how that's going to play out. Or do I let him finish school and he's going to outgrow this? Or is there going to be something else? Or is he just going to say, okay, enough is enough? Like we do. And I think that that's a really good point to hit home, because no matter where we're at on the spectrum of drinking, whether it's out of control yet, or you're just drinking 2 beers a night, you're putting people in that love us and that we probably love as well in these difficult spots to have these difficult conversations. But I don't know about you, but when people used to mention to me, I would get so pissed off. Like, what do you mean? There's nothing to see here. Like I thought I was doing all right, but for them, for somebody who's not struggling with this,
Yeah.
it stands out.
Oh yeah. I had an incident where I was at a party. I'll never forget it. I was at a party one time at Eastern Michigan University, and I met a kid, cool enough kid, seemed to have a lot of friends, knew a lot of these people, played rugby, didn't drink, and I hated him for it. I remember being at a party, meeting this kid, and when I learned that he didn't drink, all of it went away, and I hated him for it. And I think it exposed something in me that it was like, I can't be this guy without that. Or why do you get to have it without needing what I need? Or, or you think you're better than me because of it? And it's like the one thing, I've talked with a lot of people about this idea of, some of the people that when you do get sober that might not be as supportive, right? And there are some people that don't want to lose the drinking buddy or they don't want to not be able to invite you to brunch for mimosas, and they don't want to feel insecure around you, and right? For all of the people that, I won't say all, for a majority of the people that when I got sober that were not supportive of it, right? Because I got sober at 22, right?
Yeah.
And so you're talking 22, 23, 24, like we're prime going out, for all of the people that were in my life that were not supportive and were very vocal about not being supportive of me, not at 2 years in or 3 years, but at 8 years in, 10 years in, 11 years in, now 18. Those are people that have reached out to me for help in getting sober, or they're people that are dead. And they're people that aren't here anymore because aspects of this life got them,
Yeah.
And that's real, man.
Yeah.
And that just, it's real, dude. It had nothing to do with me, right? It's the action. It's knowing that there's something wrong and then not knowing how to process it. And that's why we got to offer others grace, offer ourselves grace as we're going through this process of getting sober, of supporting those that are getting sober. You don't know where people are at, man. I didn't know where I was at, right? That's we don't know where we're at half the time. And so to expect that of we just got to we got to hold our boundaries. We got to do stuff that makes sure that we're not putting ourselves in dangerous situations for our own safety and our own sobriety and our own lives. But we also got to showcase that love to others and that grace and appreciate that, whether you have 18 days, 18 hours, 18 years, man, life keeps coming and we got this thing. And we can either choose to do the right things and stay connected with people and go to the meetings and do the work and love on other people, allow other people to love us, or we white knuckle this thing. And it's just man, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely a huge difference from being involved with something and as opposed to the white knuckling. But I see that as sort of where a lot of people start out, right? Because of the shame. So I don't want to share this with anybody. I'm weak. I'm broken. I'm this, I'm that. I don't see any truth in any of that. I mean, I think alcohol is there's a sneaky aspect to it, that it's highly addictive, that it's promoted as sort of this rite of passage. And when you turn 21 or when you're 11 and you want to hang out with the older guys, everybody has sort of their own story that don't vary a whole lot about how they got started, about how they kind of got into it, right? And then we just kind of get grabbed. And then there's probably something that happened or some things that happen. Doesn't have to be anything huge. It could be a lot of things that, quote unquote, smaller events that build up and shape who we are and how we feel about ourselves. And alcohol just checks a box. I mean, you said earlier in the episode too, you don't want to, I think it was something to the effect of like, we don't want to say alcohol is good, but I mean, my reality was that it really helped me out, man, with making friends, with connecting, feeling comfortable, having some confidence and all these weird things. I mean, the stories always ends up the same. It did until it didn't, and then I couldn't quit and we had a struggle with that. But it really did check some boxes. And then what I got confused with is I thought because it was that way at one point, I thought it was going to do that forever. And I see a lot of people kind of stuck into that. Like they'll get, maybe 30 days and then they say, oh, well, I'm good now. And I know it sounds outlandish, but so many people get stuck here and then I'm good now. I'm cured now. I'm at a better place. Like whatever the event was, I've moved on from it. So of course I can have one. And then it might be 2-3 years later before they're even exploring maybe not drinking again,
Dude, I think that's so much of what it is. Like there's so much, it takes time, right? And like, if we've built all it's almost like you're the fish in the water and then like the water gets cleaned a little bit and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. It's like, wait, no, this is part of a much bigger pond, bro. And there's way other stuff. And yes, has things like, that's what we talk about the pink cloud, right? Like, sure, has things gotten better in the short run? Yes. But like, we're not through this thing. There is no through this thing. This is a journey of understanding and growth. And this is like a lifelong thing, not a lifelong sentence of awful. This is an experience that we get to like learn more about ourselves, connect more with other people. I was grateful that for whatever reason it was early on in sobriety, somebody said to me, they're like, hey man, just like, don't compare, just try to relate to something, right? Because I got sober in Detroit where, at 22, I was the youngest guy in rooms by like 30 years a lot of times, right? There were not a lot of other young people. Okay. I mean, LA is different, right? I've gone to meetings here where it's like never had a legal drink, right? People have been sober, they were strung out on heroin at 16, right? So it's like different. But there was a part of it where I learned how to like, can I just relate to people? How do I just relate? And I also will say this, man, I actually think I benefited from getting sober in an area where there weren't a lot of peers, because I had a very hard time being authentic and real with people that I was close in age with, right? Because that's who performative Phil needed to win over, right? If you were a girl in my age range, like I needed to be that guy, right? If you were a dude, like I needed to prove that I was him, right? Like there was an element of, I had a hard time. Dude, I'll tell you, this is an early story so I get sober in January. That I think it was June or like somewhere right around my mother's birthday was coming up. And I'm at a meeting in Allen Park, Michigan. And there's 2 other young people that came to the meeting. I'd never seen these 2 young people before. And it's right around my mom's birthday. And so I'm like, I'm sure right? There's times where there's dates on the calendar that like I get emotional that I don't know why. It's just like, I'm like, why do I feel all messed up? It's like, oh, because it's the anniversary of that thing. So I'm in a meeting and I'm sharing and I'm bawling, bro. Like, I'm not deep in, I'm not really comfortable in my vulnerability yet. I'm only a couple months of sobriety and I'm sitting there and I'm bawling my eyes out, bro, in this meeting, super vulnerable, especially in front of this like young guy and young girl that are in my age range that like, this is all new. Phil's testing the waters. I'm new. And so I share. This guy goes to share, a young guy, and he goes, yeah, man, I actually, I'm here for the courts. Like, I don't really think I'm an alcoholic. And then the girl shares and she goes, oh yeah, like I'm just here to support him. Like we're just here because we got to get this thing signed. And I remember being in that moment and feeling so betrayed by the whole thing, right? And as that betrayal and that shame, in that, why'd you open your mouth? And that a guy at the table stands up a guy named Scott, who I haven't seen in 17 years, but I'll never forget his name. He wore khaki shorts, even if it was winter. And he looked at them and he goes, "Hey, you guys, the two of you guys can get up and get the fuck out." And he threw them out of the meeting. And they're like, "Wait, what?" And he goes, "Look, this is a closed meeting. This is for people that are alcoholics. If you don't like, hey, this isn't the room for you." And they were like, "Whoa, we got these cards." He goes, "It's an anonymous program. Sign your own cards. I don't care. Sign each other's cards. Like, we're gonna get to leave." Yeah. And he threw them out of the meeting. And it obviously had a pretty powerful impact that I'm sitting here 17 years later telling a story about a guy named Scott who may never even remember that moment, right? And I'm telling a story about a guy named Mike who stood up at a meeting and was bold and came and called me out of my, look, that's the level of human connection and interaction and support and value that you can't sign up for anywhere else. That you get into the work and you end up being surrounded by people who are about that business, about being good people, showing up for others, being supportive, being loving. Those guys owed me nothing. I'm a stranger to those guys. And that completely derails the entire thing I grew up of feeling like I needed to prove that I was good enough, that I needed to prove that I was smart and funny and charismatic, and I needed to prove that these guys provided love and support and acceptance, not because of what I proved, but because it was who they were. And it's because of the men that they learned how to be. And like, wow, that is a very, very special, that is humans showing up for other humans with no selfishness of trying to get anything out of it. No one trying to sell me a course. No one trying to get me to sign up for their email list. Like, it's just people showing up for other people. And I am so grateful that I have had access to that part of our society. To see people that are so loving, it's pretty remarkable, man. It really is.
Yeah, that's that story there too. I mean, just wondering kind of like what happened in that moment. I mean, because you're living up, not all the way up until this point maybe, but it seems like you're sharing there are still elements of sort of your old self that you're still wondering, like, can I put this down? Can I let that down? What mask should I wear here? How should I operate there? But maybe in that moment where it was like you were kind of given a thumbs up for being authentically true, where the shields went down. It's weird how people can pick up on that too, to where if it would have been left at that, I think the message that's sent your way is like, okay, shields back up, because that was not the way it wanted to go. But then you get that support from Scott. And then you're like, okay, maybe there is something here. Maybe I can open up more. The other people are, I'm not just going to fall flat on my face here. Maybe there are people that are going to catch me.
And look, and then it becomes, right, I think, like, anyone that's done any coaching or stuff like that, you learn that there are these elements of like, figuring out your like limiting beliefs. What's the stuff you believe? What's the new thing you can replace it with? Or having the case studies from your own life of like, oh, I think I'm this way, but how are things another way? Look, man, I'll be honest, dude. I'm 40 years old. I still go to therapy, and I still will have that moment, right? I still have those moments where I could have the timer off, right? I'm in therapy. Timer's off. I don't know what time it is. Somehow my body instinctually knows 4 to 5 minutes before the session ends, something changes. My therapist can see it. I can feel it, right? There is a piece of, and whether it's a Philip Barb thing, whether it's a man in society, whether it's a person in society, whether it's insecurity, whatever it is, but there is still a piece of me that goes, all right, bro, the time is up. Put your armor back on. Like, you shielded down for long enough, right? And look, I've done 90-minute sessions, 2-hour sessions, an hour session, not watch the clock. And somehow my body just, all right, bro, it's time. You got it out. And now it's time. And it's almost comical now because I can recognize it. Like, for a while, I never recognized it, right? I just all of a sudden I'd be emotional, and then I would just get ripped out of a moment, and it was back. It was like that. it was that kid who's like, all right, it's time to go play the game. And he's still there, right? And it's like, I have to appreciate the elements of my personality and my development that, like, I'm not going to erase the past. I'm never going to be Phil Barb who didn't lose his mom at 15. Like, that's a piece of me. Now, that's not that I'm doomed to be this guy, right? But there are things that I have to appreciate the path I walked, how the cards I was dealt, and then I have to be able to be effective in how do I navigate that moving forward. And also, what stories do I have along the way to lean on, right? Like that guy that doesn't feel like I should open up. I can remember the moment. Sure, sometimes it is difficult, but there's the Scotts of the world that will step up, and people will show up when you need them to. And so I don't know, man. It's a it's fat. You know, like, look, man, we learn a lot. We learn that we don't know a lot. we gain confidence. You know, you get confident that you got this thing sorted and figured out and you know what's going on. And then something happens and you're like, you know, and then you're emotional with your girlfriend on a Sunday when it was supposed to be a nice day when you were just going to go hiking. And now you're crying because she asked you a question that, you know, I have come to a place where, like, my 15-year-old me wants to judge the hell out of all of it and tell me that I must be doing something wrong. But like the guy who's been sober 18 years, the guy who goes to the meetings, who's around other men, who is able to listen and communicate, understands, like, I'm a guy trying to do my best. I'm going to have way more good days than I do bad days. And if I look at the bad days as an opportunity to learn and to grow, and then if I can use that story or some of those bad days to, like, maybe help or give some encouragement to somebody else along their path, then we're just doing this thing together, man. And I'm trying to pay it forward for all the amazing people who I've forgotten their names, but they laid a foundation for me to have a better life now. 18 years sober, living in Los Angeles. I'm a television producer. Like, I get to live a very amazing life because a lot of strangers showed up in a very powerful way for me.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, I want to get to what the producer life is like and what that's all about. But it's interesting you say that too, because for that to happen, you have to put yourself out there. This is where I see so many people get stuck. They want change. They're tired of the way they're living. But I think the truth is, if they were ready to hear it, the honest truth is that they just don't do anything different. You don't put yourself in the rooms where somebody could reach out or somebody could say something that, hey, that makes a lot of sense. So it's about, like, pushing yourself and putting yourself somewhere so that strangers of some sort can maybe help you out. Because it's like you said earlier, I can't remember the way you put it, but the way I've heard it is the jar can't read its own label. So it's like we just circled the drain about, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know how to get out. I think a lot of people, when they do try to quit drinking, they try, maybe they don't reach their goal. They try, they don't reach their goal. You lose all trust in yourself because you're just like, I've said I'm going to do this and it never works. You know, that really roughs you up. So, but if you get around the right people and they say, hey, you know what? That was my story too. And now I am 10 years sober, or now I am 15 years sober. Like, just don't give up on yourself. Just, you know, the only person, I know it's going to might sound really weird. To some people it does. But the only person that can relapse is somebody who's actually trying to quit drinking. So that in itself is a huge win, as opposed to somebody who just lacks the awareness that alcohol is destroying their life. You know, so that's like one step in the right direction. But I love the way you put that and how important, you know, all the strangers and everybody's been in your life, right? That has helped you build, you know, such a solid foundation. But to get that, it's like we got to put ourselves out there. It's uncomfortable. It's kind of strange. It's different, but there's so many benefits from it.
Oh yeah. And look, man, if you're looking for a new job, right? Like, you got to talk with people that are in the industry, right? Like, you got to be trying to network and hear and you got to be in the conversation, or you're on the outside looking in, right? Like, if you really, like, you want to get drunk, you got to go to the liquor store. Right? You want to get drunk, you have to go to the bar, right? Like, there are things that, you know, you do, and you don't overthink it. Like, you just, that's where I got to go do that. Right. But we we haven't walked the path before, or we're getting sober and we don't know how to do it, or we don't know people that are sober. I mean, number one, the first benefit, if you're listening to this podcast, you're already doing something in the right space, right? Like you're curious about sobriety, right? So at least you've done, someone hearing this has done enough to be in this conversation. And that's what it is. It's just, what's the next thing can you do? Can you go to a meeting? Could you go to one more? Could you reach out to somebody? Could you give somebody your phone number? Can you check in with somebody? There's so many things that we can do.
Yeah.
We overthink stuff. It's what we all do. It's not you're broken because you overthink. Go to an AA meeting or go to recovery and ask people if they overthink. Hands are going up. Ask them if they fucking, is there doubt? Yeah, put your hand up. Like that doesn't, there's so many times where I'll be in a meeting or I won't want to go to a meeting, or I'll be feeling down about myself and I'll walk into a meeting and guys will share. And it doesn't make me feel like I'm in the wrong meeting. It immediately makes me know I'm in the right place. Because these are other people with a brain that operates in the same way that mine does. And that doesn't discredit me from the world. It's how my brain works. Yeah. We overthink. We do crazy stuff,
I was thinking about the other thing you mentioned earlier too. I can't remember the exact word you used for it, but the whole idea that like I'm completely different than everybody else. Like how do you? That's relatable. I can't think of the word you used, and I haven't.
Like just being the other.
Yeah, just like what they're doing doesn't apply to me. I think it was when you're talking about
entitlement.
Like comparing your story to others, but instead of comparing, like find something that's relatable.
Totally.
Because I think we can convince ourselves that like we're unique. I'm just the unique individual and nobody else can relate to sort of what I'm going through or what I've been through. And I think that can keep us stuck too, because then it's like, where do we go for help, or are we going to accept help from other people? How did you work through like sort of that in the early days?
I think there was, obviously, like I said, dude, I did a lot of, performative stuff early on that kept me still pretty unseen from people. Or I would like leak little things, right? I would share little bits of information and see how, and I was like testing the waters. But the truth is, man, the one thing is, if you do start getting into recovery and you start meeting people, you start hearing other people's stories, I've actually gotten a lot of encouragement from listening to other people share some really difficult things. Like, and I hate to say this, but I won't put anyone on blast, but somebody comes to mind. I can remember a guy sharing about something that was pretty traumatic in his life. And not just was traumatic of what happened to him, but it was something that could bring a lot of shame and judgment from outside. And he stood in front of a group of men and shared this pretty difficult thing. And it gave me strength to be able to be like, man, if this guy can get up there and share and be honest, like, and seem like he's got peace about it, I want that. Like, how do I get in? Like, maybe the first step is like, can I share? And then like he was speaking in front of a big group of guys. He shared this thing. And it was one of those moments where everyone was like, whoa, I did not know that about you. And right. And then I feel like I was able to walk away from that. And then I was able to then share some things about me in a smaller group. And I gained strength from this guy getting out there and sharing his thing. And I remember that was a pretty pivotal moment for me in being able to address some shames and guilts and frustrations that I had. And it was, I also in that, and then I will say this, man, I remember doing my 4-step with that sponsor. And I remember sitting and telling him some things, you write things down in the safety and comfort of your own environment. And then when it comes to that place where you actually do need to share it, when I shared it, to be able to look, not look him in the eye, because I'm bawling and I'm looking everywhere but in his eye. And then for him to then look at me directly in the face and be like, hey, Phil, do you know that that's okay? And to have somebody look at you, see you, and tell you that this secret that you've been letting grow in the dark is okay. I don't know the science of it. I don't know the magic of it. I don't know how it works or why it works. I don't know if that's God. I don't know what it is. But there are some moments that if you show up for yourself and allow others to show up for you, I guarantee there will be some moments in each of our lives that where a shift happens, where there is a piece where, look, there's things in life that can happen negatively that you're never the same person on the other end again. And I also believe there's a lot of moments that if we choose to see it this way and we show up, there's a lot of really amazing, positive things that can happen in our lives that if we choose to see it that way, changes our lives for the better forever. And I want to be the type of guy that highlights those moments more than I want to sit and relive all the bad stuff that I've ever done. And I don't know if that answered the question, but
yeah, that's great. Great job, Philip. Heading towards wrapping up, a couple more minutes here. Yeah. So last 18 years of sobriety and 40 years kind of your life here. I mean, what are your big takeaways from this journey? What has it taught you? What have you learned? What would you like to share with others?
Man, I was at my 40th birthday party a couple weeks ago. And it was one of those things where, I didn't really want to throw a party. I was kind of like in that, like, I don't celebrate. I don't want to celebrate myself or blah, 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 blah. And I ran into a buddy and he, a couple months before and gave me a hard time about not wanting to celebrate. And so I said, fine, I'll put together a party. And so I threw this party, threw this birthday party up in West Hollywood. And my sister flew out from Detroit. Her boyfriend came out. My friends from LA are there. These people that have made my life so special. Some AA guys are there. Cigar buddies, work friends, people that I've built these relationships with. And then talking, I really wanted to bring people together. And then in talking with people afterward, everyone being like, bro, these are just loving people. They're like, I haven't been in a room that felt so. There are so many people that just had so much love for you. And then because of the love for you, they had respect for one another and everyone was just getting along and having a good time and meeting. And it's like that. And I had a moment where I'm at the party and I step aside and I started to feel frustrated with myself because it was frustrating to be filled. I preach and I talk so much to people about community and how important it is to be there for your people and show up for your friends and take care of it. It is a human existence that we are doing and we have to do it. And yet I say all these things all of the time. And then I go and I get caught up in the stuff of this world about money and about my career. And about, am I making enough? Am I far enough along? Do I have the significance enough? Do I have enough status? Or do we have enough followers? Why are there not more opportunities coming in? And it's like, I get frustrated because I know I've been around it long enough. And I know I've been on I did a show for Netflix a couple of years ago. We went to 6 countries. In South Africa, Australia, Japan, Maldives, like all these amazing things that on paper you want to brag about. None of it, there's not one moment on any of those trips that compared to being at my birthday party surrounded with people that I love and care about. Yet I forget that. I forget that I have this very special thing in these people. And I then think that I'm somehow my paycheck or that I am my job title. And so I think one of the biggest takeaways is most men only need to learn something once, but they need to be constantly reminded. And there's a lot of stuff that I've learned that I constantly need new reminders about to reinforce. But left to my own devices, I will do the things that the world is telling me to do. I will do the stuff. I will chase the things that the world is telling me to go and chase. But when I'm calm, when I'm centered, when I've meditated, when I'm talking to my sponsor, when I'm going to meetings, when I'm showing up for other people, when I'm being of service, I'm not thinking about my paycheck or my bank account or none of that matters. And that's where I'm the most filled. When I'm the most filled in my heart, it isn't because I'm swiping the credit card on some fancy dinner. You know, I am most filled in my heart when I am in community with people that I love and that love me, or that at least if they're a stranger that we can share and connect over something. It is connection. And right, people say it all the time, like the opposite of addiction is connection, right? Like being connected with people. And I really have come to believe that in my, 40 some years and some change.
Yeah. Wow, man. Thanks for sharing that with us too. I can see how difficult that can be. And I mean, a lot of that is relatable too, of, wanting to live one way and then kind of being frustrated too, of that not always being the thing there, and trying to bounce back, and kind of the way I feel like this is a goalpost moving society, right? Where you hit one thing and you're like, okay, but that even before this part in my life, I draw that all the way back to like my earlier days before addiction. No matter what it was never good enough. If I had 24 beers, it was never good enough. I wanted 30. If I had whatever, drugs, it didn't matter. If I had the girlfriend, or I just got the new apartment or the new car,
just wanted more.
It was it was never good enough.
More.
Yeah. And I think that over time, I have to recalibrate too, like what you said too about, I mean, we have to find that peace, or at least be actively pursuing it or working on it, or be aware of it, about what's stealing our peace, and try to get back to sort of that baseline of what we have is enough. And I sort of have this, deep-seated belief too, that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, in life. And sometimes that, sometimes that's great, right? Everything's great, of course, Brad. But when things suck, I'm like, okay, that sucks. But, you don't know the good without sort of the other side too. So if every day was just a winner, winners would be kind of blah as well. So thanks for sharing that, man.
For sure.
Anything else before we wrap up?
Honestly, man, we could go for days, but I do think we probably, there's probably enough, and I think there's enough in for now. But the one thing I'll say, if somebody you watch this whole thing and you're still hanging out with us at the end, thank you so much for your time and being willing to hang out with us. But I'd love to hear from you, man. Like if you did watch this, hit me up on Instagram, and just even let me know that, like, hey man, I heard it, or something that resonated, or you be like, hey man, I listened to your whole thing. I think you're full of shit, because that's been a powerful thing for me in the past as well. So, but no, I mean, honestly, just, it's at Philip Barb, right? I'm pretty easy to find. I do coaching, TV producing. I work on Dancing with the Stars. I'm always willing to talk with people and hear what's going on. And also, look, if you're here and you liked it, like, share it with somebody that you think would benefit from the conversation. You don't have to share the whole thing. Find a little snippet that you like and share it. And I just, hey man, I appreciate you letting me come on and talk. And it's been, like I said, we've been, connected for a long time, and it's nice to finally do this. And I appreciate the opportunity, and it's great to meet you finally.
Yeah, man, you too. Yeah, thank you so much. What is the expression, man? The loudest boos always come from the cheapest seats. Right. So if somebody doesn't like something, man, you're gonna hear from them now. But that's all good. That's part of it. Everything doesn't hit for everybody, and that's that acceptance part too. But that's something I've had to learn, right? Because I'm like, hey, I'm putting 10, 15 hours a week into the podcast, and then somebody doesn't like it. I'm like, my soul is crushed, but that's okay. Some people like stuff, and some people like pizza and some don't, it's all good, man. It's okay.
I was on a podcast with a buddy of mine who it's all entertainment based, but he has these rapid fire questions. And the first rapid fire question is pizza or tacos? And people just absolutely, and then he did one that was like a compilation of his first 20 episodes. And it was just people picking pizza and tacos, and people were losing their minds about how could you ever think pizza? How could you ever like a taco? We love to argue. I think it's we're all so similar that we piss each other off, because we really are just mirrors of ourselves in the things that we get angry about with ourselves. But yeah, man, look, I can't even stop talking. I'm gonna be done. Thank you so much for having me on, man. I appreciate you. Thank you to everybody that listened. Hit us up, and I'm done now. I'm turning my mic off.
Thanks, man. Well, there it is, everyone. Another incredible episode here on the podcast. Thank you to Philip for jumping on here and sharing his story with all of us. Like he said, send him a message on Instagram. I'll drop his contact details for Instagram down in the show notes below. If you love the show, drop a comment, YouTube, Spotify, or a review on Apple, and I'll see you on the next one.